Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about using machine groups for RPA load distribution and redundancy. Let's go. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about why this episode is important. So we did talk about machine connectivity last week in last week's video. If you haven't seen that already, go ahead and check it out. I will leave a link in the description. And what we learned last week was that the new machine connectivity is an alternative for the on-premises data gateway that we used to have to use. Now, when it comes to the on-premises data gateway, it did have this notion of being able to cluster gateways in order to achieve redundancy and load distribution. Now, inside of the machine connectivity, we have a similar feature that is called machine groups that also allows us to provide load distribution and high availability itself. Now, why would you want to use this? So you can go ahead and group your workloads into logical groups that make sense to take advantage of your licenses and avoid production disruptions. So what does that mean? So this is more apparent when it comes to unattended workloads. But when you have an unattended license, that essentially becomes a machine or a node on your environment that you can actually go ahead and route traffic to and have it run in an unintended fashion. Now, for some organizations, it continues to be like, okay, for every bot I build in dev, that becomes an unattended bot in prod, which means I'm going to run it on a specific machine, and I need an unattended license for each one of these workloads. And that's not necessarily the case. What you can do is you can go ahead and say, I'm going to identify, say, maybe 5 machines that are going to be part of this specific cluster or this machine group. Then what I can do is choose to spray traffic against those 5 unattended workload nodes that are going to be able to fulfill that traffic. So I may have like 10 different business processes that all sort of funnel down into these 5 machines, and it allows me to take advantage of my licenses, because what I want to ensure is that when I have a node, I have it busy. Like an idle node is basically not taking advantage of all of the opportunities that it has. So by filling up these machines with work to do and then having some sort of intelligent router that can distribute this traffic, you kind of get the best of both worlds. And for that reason, you really should be looking at this specific feature in order to sort of take advantage of your licenses, but also HA. Like, you also might run into a situation where you have a specific process that might be running slow. And what that's doing is creating this backlog or this queue of other requests that are yet to be serviced. By having that machine group, you can go ahead and distribute that load against many nodes. And so that's one of the core benefits of this. I'd say another benefit of this is you can abstract your connections between your cloud flows and your desktop flows. So in the past, or in some scenarios, you would go ahead and say, I'm going to go ahead and have this cloud flow call this desktop flow. I'm going to go ahead and call a specific machine in order to fulfill that workload. Well, what happens if that machine disappears? Then what you need to go do is update a connection. And if you've got really strict production policies, that may require some sort of change ticket for you to be able to go ahead and do so. However, if you have a machine group and maybe one of your nodes you do need to take down for some sort of maintenance activity, maybe it's like Windows patching, well, guess what? Like, you won't have other interruptions. You will have other nodes that can go ahead and service that workload, but you won't have to modify any sort of connections, which means no change to your production configuration itself, which is very important. And then lastly, I do want to call out that there is a max of 20 machines per group for now. And so when you are designing your machine groups, do be aware that that is an upper limit. So you would need to create another machine group and then add other nodes into that machine group itself. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more on how we can go ahead and create a machine group. I'm not going to record the whole scenario. I've just got some screenshots that sort of will help us along the way. So number one, what you do need to do is get the latest version of Power Automate Desktop. You can find that in the Power Automate Maker portal. Click on My Flows, and then you will see an install dropdown. You want to ensure that you've got the same version on as many nodes as you want to go ahead and configure. So you go ahead and install Power Automate Desktop, then go ahead, click on Settings, and it will automatically go ahead and register the machine on the default environment. That has been my experience. You can go change that. Just go ahead, select the appropriate environment and save, and then you're good. It'll go ahead and register it in that environment. Do note it can only belong to one environment at a time. So go ahead and do that on both machines. Then what you can do is click on this Add to Machine Group button, and what will happen is you will get redirected over to the Power Automate Maker portal. Once again, just be aware of the environment that you're in. Should be okay, but just do be mindful of that. Then you'll go ahead and click on New Machine Group. And just in case you're wondering where you find this screen, it is in the monitoring dropdown. You're going to see an item for machines, and then you'll see all of your machines, and you'll see your machine groups, and then you want to go ahead and create a new machine group. Now, what you'll be able to do is go ahead and provide a name for that and a description. And when that machine group is created, you're going to see an experience like this. And this is where you would be able to go ahead and manage all of your machines. You'll also be able to see a run queue, which we're going to see in the demo itself. So at this point, we've got the machine group, but we don't have any machines added to that group. So that's when we're going to go ahead and click on Add Machine. Now, you're going to see this pop-up show up. And what's really important is that you do run this step on the machine that is being added. So in my case, I'm going to do this on machine 1. And so I need to be logged on machine 1 when I'm actually clicking this experience. And the reason for that is that this window, it is a screenshot, it's sort of a partial screenshot, is actually being launched from Power Automate Desktop itself. So this is in our portal, our Maker portal. This is actually going to provide a deep link into the application itself, where we're going to provide a machine group password. And so this is something that you can change later if you're an administrator, but you can go ahead and provide a password. The idea here is that for any subsequent nodes that want to be added to this machine group, is you do have to have this password for that to occur. So do make sure you're doing this step on the machine that you're adding. Once you provide that password, we'll see that machine 1 is now joined. Now what we want to do is go provide these same steps on machine 2. So do log into machine 2, then go ahead and add that machine. You're going to have to provide that password, and then what we should see inside the machine groups management experience inside of the Power Automate portal, that we have 2 machines that are configured. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through a demo, and what I've done is I've just gone ahead and created a very simple Power Automate desktop script. All we're going to do is we're going to open up a command session, and we're going to write the term hostname into the command itself. We're going to wait 3 seconds for the results to be returned, and then we're going to read from the console. Now the console is essentially going to go ahead and provide like a list of values, and the list is going to be separated by a new line entry. So what we're going to do is just perform a split text operation, breaking it down by new lines, and on the 4th line, we're going to be able to go ahead and extract the machine name. We're going to return that machine name back to the Cloudflow. This will just help us get a sense of where did our script run. In addition, I'm going to show you that in the management experience, we also include the name of the machine that processed that specific instance. So, but this is just a demo just to prove that we're running these scripts on different machines. Now the scenarios we're going to talk about is load distribution, and then also high availability. So what I've got in my configuration is 2 nodes in Azure. Doesn't have to be in Azure. That was just the simplest solution for me. We're going to make a series of requests, and we're going to see how that gets sprayed across the 2 nodes. Then what we're going to do is we're going to actually shut down one of the machines, and we're then going to go ahead and push more data into our desktop flow and let the machine group take care of distributing it, but in this case to the only available node. And what we'll be able to do is demonstrate that we can do this without actually changing our connection string, our connection inside of our Cloudflow, which allows us to sort of survive outages in the future. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the demo. Okay, so here I have my 2 Azure VMs. I've got machine 1, I've got machine 2. They both have Power Automate Desktop on it. We're not actually going to see anything pop up during the demos just because this is running in the background itself, but do note that I do have 2 machines to address this use case. Now, the other thing that I do have is my Cloudflow. And so what we'll do is just take a quick look at this Cloudflow. It is quite simple in terms of what it does. It's essentially just going to have a manual trigger, and then we're going to go ahead and call our Power Automate desktop. In this case, it's the load distribution script. Now, as described in the slides, what I do have here is I just have a machine name output variable, and then I'm just going to go ahead and run this specific command line session where I'm going to open it up, write hostname into the command session itself. We're going to send the enter key command after. We're going to wait 3 seconds just to address any sort of race conditions. We will then go ahead and read from this specific session itself. We will then go ahead and split the text of the output variable from the previous action. We're going to use the new line delimiter as a way to sort of break it up. And then what we can go ahead and do is just assign the fourth value. It's a zero-based array. The fourth value from our list into machine name, and then return that back to the Cloudflow itself. So I'm just going to go ahead and close this because I don't need this for the demo to run. And we will close this as well. So that's what the desktop flow is going to do. Now, something to be aware of is when you do go ahead and add a connection, it's going to be a little bit different. So the default is still the on-premise data gateway. It is naturally supported. It is in general availability. The direct to machine, this is currently in public preview. Now, when I go ahead and select that directly to machine, I'm going to see a new drop-down for machine or machine group. Now, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and provide this dev machine group that we previously went ahead and created. Now, this is important. You do need to ensure that for all of the machines that are in this machine group, that whatever user you provide here has the right access to that machine to be able to log in and run these scripts. If that user can't log on to a machine and that traffic gets sprayed to that machine, you're naturally going to get an error. So you do need to ensure that you've got some consistency there. And we're going to go ahead and just run this in attended mode for this purposes of this demo, but the unattended stuff works exactly the same. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kick this off. I'll probably pause the video, and once I've got a few of these instances going, and then we can take a look at the results after, just to get a sense of what's going on here. Okay, we see that we've got a couple that have completed, and then we also have like 5 more that are running. So let's go ahead and take a look at our machines console here, and we'll also get another view from that perspective. So let's go ahead and click on machine groups, find our machine group itself. We can see we've got 2 machines in, and then we also have a few that are being queued up, right? So we've got a few that have succeeded all within the last minute or so. We've got 3 that have succeeded. We've got machine 1 represented, machine 2, machine 1. We can go ahead and hit the refresh button here and see that we are now processing these. In addition, we can look at our run queue, see what is next to run as well from that perspective. So let's go ahead, let's refresh this. It's got 2 more that are running, and then another one that is queued itself. Okay, so we're now down to the last one, but let's go ahead and take a look at this. Here we can go ahead and see what was the output from our desktop flow. So this was saying machine 1. If we head back over here, was the second one that we had gone ahead and had clicked on. And sure enough, we can see that it was processed by machine 1 itself. Okay, so our batch of requests have now all been processed. So we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we can see that it was evenly distributed between machine 1 and machine 2, giving us that workload distribution, which is great to see. That's exactly what we want. We want to be able to spray requests over a number of machines. Now, naturally, not all of your processes will take the same duration, right, if you have different processes that you're automating, but it does give you a sense of how we'll be able to distribute that traffic for our specific use cases. Now, shifting gears a little bit, let's go ahead and let's shut down one of our nodes. Let's go ahead and see what would happen if we go ahead and had a failure. Maybe we need to take down a machine for Windows patching or maintenance, or perhaps even like it's offline. Maybe it's a physical device and someone's taken their laptop home. How do we ensure that we still have that continuity? Okay, so now I am on machine 1, and I'm just going to go ahead and shut it down. Okay, so that's now done. Let's head over to machines here, and we can now see that it has detected that it is offline. We only have one node that is available here. So what we're going to do now, we're not going to go change the connection. We don't need to do that because we pointed at the machine group, not an individual machine. So let's now just go ahead and kick off a couple of these runs and just make sure that they get picked up without any sort of intervention, and that we are able to achieve high availability and as a result business continuity, because we're not seeing any sort of impact from a business process. Now, naturally, we're going to be processing these serially, so it is going to take longer for them to complete, but we're certainly not outage. We don't have an outage. We're continuing to run from that perspective. So let's just go over to our overview here, and then let's go ahead and refresh. And we can see that we've already processed one request on machine 2, and then we've got 2 that are queued up here. Okay, I paused the video while that was being recorded, but everything worked out successfully, and machine 2 was able to pick up our load, and we didn't see any errors, and we were able to just satisfy all of those requests. Okay, so that concludes the demo, but hopefully that was useful for you. Every customer should be doing some sort of evaluation with machine groups. This is really important. This is the future of connectivity for Power Automate Desktop, and as you can see, it has some good features just in terms of that management, the ease of going ahead and adding it to a group, securing it down, locking it down through passwords, and then being able to address some of these different scenarios, whether it be low distribution or high availability. But you do want to ensure that you've got some redundancy and also scalability as well, and this is a feature that just allows you to do that, so do go ahead and check that out. Thanks for going ahead and checking out this episode on the channel. Really appreciate it. If you're not following me on Twitter, go ahead and find me at Weare, and then obviously you're on YouTube, so appreciate you checking out this video. Likes, comments, subscribes, always appreciate it. Thanks, and we'll catch you next week on the channel. Take care.